Okay, hey, our next form of inheritance is one. It's I don't think it's very complex. It takes time and effort to plow through some of the multi factors of inheritance here. Now, when we look at this, it's going to look like a lot, but really it's more methodical. Once again, it's going to work just like a multiplication table. If you look, we're going to, wherever the two traits intersect is where we're going to write down. The reason for doing this is some genes are controlled by more than one. I'm sorry, some traits are controlled by more than one gene. All right, so we have a couple examples in our assignment today that are genes that are unrelated. In order to practice for genes like this for eye color. Okay, so for eye color, there are two genes. The first one we indicate with the B, and that is if you're going to have brown eyes or not. Okay, so brown is dominant to all eye colors. So if you look at this trait, any person on here that has a large capital B is going to have brown eyes. All right, so that's the first trait. The B's are telling us if it's brown or not brown. And then the second trait for eye color is going to tell us if it's green or not green. All right, so if notice here we have a capital G that tells us we have green eyes, but that dominant brown gene is going to overpower it there. Okay, so where do we get green eyes? Ooh, if we don't have that brown gene, and we go over here, now we have green eyes as a result. That means the only way that you can get blue eyes is by having all four recessive alleles there. So like I said, it's the same kind of Punnett square. It's just doubled in size, and so we're looking at double the different outcomes in there. So once again, make sure you're just putting one trait, one allele of each above the box, and work your way through. This is an example of epistatic alleles. All right, so we see this actually with Labrador Retriever puppies, or just Labrador Retrievers in general. Coat color is controlled by one gene with four different alleles. All right, so yellow, a yellow lab is actually recessive and epistatic. So when it's present, so if you have the yellow coat gene there, it's going to dominate brown and black coats. I'm sorry, chocolate and black coats there. So kind of an interesting look there on Labrador Retrievers. We don't get into that too much. All right, that's more of an advanced bio thing. And then our last trait that we have here are polygenetic traits. These are genes that are controlled by multiple different, once again, traits that are controlled by multiple different genes. And so essentially, I like to think of it as like the more capital letters you have, the more that trait is amplified. Right. So here's a look at maybe skin color, an example. So if you have more of the dominant alleles, then you're going to have darker shades of skin. You're going to produce more melanin. Versus if you're all recessive shades or all recessive alleles, you're going to have lighter colored skin. Same thing with height. The more dominant traits you have, the taller you could be, and the fewer, then the shorter you could be. This is how you get offspring that are different heights and different skin tones than their parents. All right. So I don't know, maybe some of you out there are taller than both of your parents. It's like, well, genetically, how is that possible? All right. Your parents could pass on a variety of their different genes, and they might just combine that, hey, you have more of those dominant alleles than they do individually. So they happen to pass on more of those to you than originally there. So that's what gives us this bell curve of genotypes there. So when we look at height, right, the majority of the population resides somewhere in here in the middle, and then we have the extremes on both ends of all recessive traits, all dominant traits. Here's a live look at that, and a famous photo of genetic expression here showing that here's the heights, and we see this bell curve in there as we're going. All right, I'm going to stop there with our different types of alleles.